All right. Hello, welcome to the latest edition of Ragic Office Hour, and let's get started on your questions. Okay, first question. Hiding sections with conditional formatting. Is it possible to hide the section completely, hiding the fields and the tab buttons completely, including the fields and tab buttons? Well, currently we don't have a way to hide a section, but I do think that this is something that we're currently working on, and it's and thank you for pointing out that if we're going to hide a section, we'll probably have to hide the button also. So yeah, I think this is something that we may support in the future. So and yes, we will be supporting it with conditional formatting. So it seems like fields can be hidden, but not the whole section. Yes. So if you have a lot of fields in the sections, it will be a lot easier to use conditional formatting to hide the whole section. So that makes sense, and that is something that we're currently working on. As to support hiding sections in conditional formatting. It should be supported later this year. All right, thank you for your suggestion. Okay, next question. Locking records. Is it possible to lock a record completely and prevent any edits by formula or link and load or any other non-manual feature? It seems like locking records only prevent manual edits but not other editing ways. Yeah, locking records is basically it prevents you from editing the records, but yeah, if you have formulas and or like link and load that they are triggered by like from other sheets, it might change the field values. So is there any way to lock a record completely so that there's no way that it's changed? Yeah, I don't think there's a way to completely do that because usually when we design something and then there's going to be exceptions. So, oh, you in this case you have to change this. So very often we have these dilemma like when we create lock records and we have to design a change in change design so that some records are not locked. So usually it goes back and forth, and we will also look into like if there's any way that we can completely lock a record and make sure that it's never changed. But it's still it it's gonna relate to a lot of other features. Like for example, if there are multiple versions of a record, so does the lock every single version, or if like the record has a parent sheet, it's a playable record on the parent sheet. So there's gonna be a lot of other things to consider when we're talking about this kind of you know immutable records. So it's something that we'll think about, and thank you for your feedback. But I would guess that there will be a lot of ifs and things that we need to consider before, having a chance to talk about designing or implementing a, a really immutable record feature like this. We'll need to take a lot of many types of configuration into consideration. We'll discuss this internally. Let's see if there's anything we can do to support features. Okay, thank you for your suggestion. But this seems like something that's a little bit tougher to do because there are just so many other features that might be interlocked. So, and having something this absolute seems difficult. Okay, setting a time to close the access of a sheet automatically. Okay, here's the scenario. I want users to submit to my form, but the sheet needs to close right on time automatically, such as an application ends at 12 a.m., but instead of modifying its access right on that time manually myself, could it be possible to do this automatically? So not only I don't have to stay up midnight to do this work myself, but also prevent any controversies. If I close it after the deadline and people are still able to submit applications. Okay, this also sounds like something that you could do with conditional formatting. And you should be able to, a simpler way would be to, maybe you can simply create a field that's a must field that needs to be not empty when the user fills it out. And then you can use conditional formatting to lock that field after a certain date. And this way you can, and the user will not be able to submit any new entries after that certain date. So it looks something, probably something like this. Like, for example, if we want to make sure people don't create new records after a certain date, like midnight today, so we could create a date time right now. So it could be something like this. This is right now, default value, create date and time. So we can create another field like, oh, we could probably just create a conditional formatting. Oops. Let's save this first. Conditional formatting. We create a new rule. If date time is after today, no, not today, a chosen date, that should be this date. So for example, in this time, and it should like, we could just make a field read only. Let's say, let's just say that a name field. So we just read only this field. Let's save this first so I can find this field. Oops, oh, I forgot. Okay, let's go start over. If the date time is after a chosen date, which is like this, then make the name field read only. Then read only the name field. Okay. Okay, so make this read only. And we can make this not empty to make sure that this needs to be filled out. So normally you will be able to create a new record here. Okay, so before this date, this will be available, and after a certain date, it's gonna be not available, okay? So now we can make this field read-only, so that it can only be filled out with default value. So we make it read-only, or we can even like hide it. So if it's hidden, so there's no way that this could be saved. Okay, so the user will not be able to save this any new records that they entered. And to be clear, you could also like use validations on this field, and you can customize the error message so that you can say, oh, you're after the registration date and it's past the registration date, so that the user knows that why they're not able to create a new entry on this sheet. Okay. So this is my suggestion. We don't really have a very direct way to say that we change the user access right after some time, but using conditional formatting, you could do something similar in that respect. You can use a conditional formatting to make a field not empty field read only after when the user is trying to create a new registration record after a certain time. This way the user will not be able to create new records after that time. Or instead of not empty fields, you can also use a field value validation so that you can customize the error message to make it clear for the users that it's past the registration date. All right? Okay, so here's my suggestions on how to do this. Oops. All right, so thank you for your questions, and I hope this answers your questions. And if you have any other things that you would need help on, like Ragic sheet field and Ragic sheet design, or have some questions or suggestions on Ragic features, feel free to use the office hour question sheet, and I'll talk to you guys in 2 weeks to answer your questions. Thank you and goodbye.